How are you?
I'm fine. Stocks don't go up every day, though.
They don't.
I thought they went up every day.
They don't.
They
Bitcoin
don't.
doesn't go up every day either.
Well, it does. You got to prove that.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Still, though, yeah, like we've been saying throughout the day, the rally that we've seen post-Trump's win is taking a bit of a pause, but we're still up 3.5% just in the last 5 days on the S&P 500.
Yeah, for context, we're close to all-time highs, and you have to think there's some profit-taking going on right now. A lot of enthusiasm appeared in the market over the past week, and you're seeing it drain out of some of the places that really had been inflated. Do you think about small caps really taking it on the chin today?
Yeah, but some parts of the Trump trade are still intact, right? The dollar continues to move higher. That has not really slowed down. And yields after a 3-day weekend, the bond market is selling off once again.
I just want to tell you, we keep talking about how kind of the Trump trade, at least for today, is on pause. Two of the biggest stocks on a percentage basis moving today, which I didn't even know still existed, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac.
I did not know those were stocks necessarily.
Freddie Mac up 26% here on the day. Fannie Mae up about 20%. In fact, both are up more than 70% since the election. I'm not exactly sure what people are speculating on. I guess, I don't know. Something? Can you help me out, Katie Greifeld?
No, I can't.
I know you're a big Fannie
I
Freddie
was
person.
prepping to talk about Machine Gun Kelly, so you caught me in the cold.
Yeah, I did a lot of research. The first thing Katie Greifeld, who apparently is a big fan of the program, when I mentioned that Meghan was pregnant, was she didn't know they were still together. So I went down a rabbit hole last night, so I have a lot of stuff to talk about with you later, Katie.
Who knew that you were such a font of information on Machine Gun Kelly?
Absolutely.
Talk offline.
I'm an expert. All right, let's talk about what's going on in the markets today here. Right across the screen, a bit of a pullback from what we saw over the last 5 days. The Dow Jones Industrial Average down 0.9%. The S&P 500 down 0.3%. We're going to call the NASDAQ down about 0.1% here on the day. But the big decliner, believe it or not, some of those domestic-oriented stocks that have really been a big beneficiary of the Trump trade, the Russell 2000, down 1.8%.
All right, taking a deeper look in the S&P 500, we did see more stocks move lower today than higher. 359 to the downside, while 143 stocks advanced today, Scarlett.
All right, let's take a look at the IMAP, which really maps out the sector performances, and a lot of red there, with 5 groups down more than 1%, led by materials, healthcare, and REITs. Those groups down anywhere from 1.3 to 1.6%. Your better performers here are communication services, infotech, and consumer staples, but none of them gaining more than half of 1%.
All right, let's do some gainers as we continue to await for earnings to come in.
Can I interrupt you again,
Please.
Tim Stenovec? Just because I just know, not Skyworks, my producer, Stuart Paul over at Bloomberg Economics, he actually just IB'd in and says that the reason why Fannie and Freddie are rallying is because they've recapitalized and released
It's an expectation
a
that's
pet
out
project, Katie Greifeld, of your friend, your homie, Bill Ackman.
I don't know if we're homies, but that is something that Ackman has talked about in the past. Unclear, as Stuart Paul points out, whether he's still in the preferred shares necessarily, but you were talking about speculation. What are people speculating on when it comes to these two names? It could be that, Romaine.
Yeah. We have earnings, I'm told.
Yeah. I want to get over to Skyworks because we're seeing shares move higher in the after hours, up by 3.5%. Fourth quarter adjusted earnings per share did beat estimates. The company sees first quarter adjusted earnings per share coming in below estimates at $1.57. Estimates were for $1.69. The company sees first quarter revenue coming in about $1.05 billion to $1.08 billion. That's shy of estimates of $1.09 billion. But for the previous quarter, fourth quarter revenue coming in above estimates or within line with estimates, and then adjusted operating income coming in just shy of estimates. Shares in the after hours right now higher by 5.7%. Okay, as we do await other earnings, I do want to get to some of the stocks that did move higher in today's session, starting with Tyson Foods. Intraday, the company surged the most in more than 2 years. It did rise by 6.6%. It beat fiscal fourth quarter earnings estimates. It projected stronger results next year. Chicken, it's so hot right now.
Yes.
A turnaround in its chicken business, offsetting losses in beef.
Feeling bullish on chicken.
It's Tyson's second largest source of revenue.
How long did it take you to come up with that, Katie?
I actually made that joke earlier this morning. So.
Okay, so
wait, you're recycling jokes on the clothes?
Big time.
Different audiences. It's okay.
The demand for chicken has improved as consumers are looking for cheaper alternatives to beef. Plunging prices for corn and soybeans also made it cheaper to feed those animals. Also, shares of Honeywell International surging today. This after Bloomberg reported that Elliott Investment Management has built a $5 billion plus position in the company, and it's pushing the the company to pursue a breakup. Shares ended up finishing the day higher by about 3.9%. And finally, Shopify shares surged after the company reported third quarter results that beat analyst expectations. The company also gave a strong outlook.
All right, let me just jump in here because Spotify did come out with some numbers here. And Spotify's third quarter revenue was just under 4 billion euros when analysts were looking for 4.03 billion. Gross margin for the period was 31.1%. That is higher than what was anticipated. And the total premium subscribers, 252 million, also slightly higher than what was anticipated, 250.06 million, and monthly active users, 640 million, compared with the consensus estimate of 639.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see this big reaction in Spotify, given that the shares were already higher by about 123% year to date. So it was a high bar, and it takes a look. It looks like that Spotify has surpassed it, at least for right now. You take a look at that stock reaction.
And it's a big deal also because this was the quarter in which they raised prices. So clearly investors are swallowing that and continuing to pay up.
Spotify shares up about 8% here in the after hours trade. To the downside, Instacart, Maple Bear, the formal name, those results out. Revenue in the most recent quarter coming in at about 852 million. That is a beat. The bottom line number, $227 million on an adjusted EBITDA basis. That is also a beat. The outlook for the fourth quarter, though, this might be why you're seeing weakness in the shares. Adjusted EBITDA of 230 to 240 million. The top end of that range is below the average of street estimates. Instacart also saying that fourth quarter gross transaction value will come in the range of $8.5 to $8.65 billion, and that outlook includes the Ahold outage impact as well. Shares now moving even lower, down about 8%, Katie.
All right, very much in earnings season. Let's talk about Flutter as well, coming out with numbers, narrowing its full year U.S. revenue forecast. Taking a look at some of the numbers over the third quarter, though, the adjusted EPS coming in at 43 cents. The estimate had been for 68 cents. Revenue, though, coming in heavier than expected. Third quarter revenue in at $3.25 billion, above estimates of about $3 billion. And you take a look at full year adjusted EBITDA, it's seen between 670 million to 750 million. That is above, or interesting, you take a look at the past range, that was between $680 million to $800 million. So a narrowing there. You can see shares moving up a little bit right now, currently higher by about 2.4%.
I'm going back to Maple Bear, also known as Instacart. I'm picking through the investor letter. The font is small, the pages are many. 20 pages. But one thing that the company talks about, which I find really interesting, is integration with different companies. So, for example, if you want to order Costco to be delivered, you got to use Instacart there. So you might not necessarily be an Instacart member or use Instacart in any other part of your life. But if you want Costco groceries delivered to your home, or they say Sprouts groceries delivered to your home, you got to use a platform like Instacart. The company is continuing to push more of those partnerships as we speak.
Yeah, the exclusive partnerships is what makes the difference, right? And sometimes people, if you don't have those other options, you just have to pay up for it. Really interesting that Instacart is the read that Instacart gives us on consumers' willingness to spend on, sometimes you would think it's discretionary purchases, but in the case of groceries, a key staple purchase.
Yeah, I mean, I am curious, though, too. I mean, I wonder if they can articulate on the conference call as to how they kind of keep the growth going. I mean, the partnerships certainly help here. But I know there was a lot of talk in the past two earnings cycles that we had with them that the uptake, meaning the number of people who were using home delivery, and this is primarily here in the U.S., that had not only tapered off, but in certain markets was actually falling.
It's really interesting to think about the human psychology piece as well. When you think about Instacart, so many people were ordering online their groceries during the pandemic. Yeah. And that's one of those behaviors that really stuck. I mean, I know a lot of people who, even though they live in the suburbs, they have a car, they can go to the grocery store. It's just easier to order.
Yeah, absolutely here. So we're keeping an eye on that. One of the big movers in after hours trades, Flutter as well, Spotify, your big gainer here in the after hours trade as we wrap up our global simulcast here of a breakdown here of what happened in the market today, our cross-platform coverage of the close right here on Bloomberg Television, Radio, and YouTube.